Hello everyone, OSW-Sim-Sports here, and I hope you are ready for some more Raceroom, because today we are trying the legendary Super Touring cars. 2-liter, naturally aspirated, most of them are front-wheel drive, but not all, and today we are driving the Volvo. And for this race I will be cosplaying as Rikkert Rijdel. It will be a 15-minute race at Brands Hatch. But before we jump into the race, I just quickly want to ask you, which Super Touring car would you like to see in the next video? Please let me know in the comments. Thank you. And so here we are for the race start. I'm starting from the back because if I did a qualifying lap, Nick from Blompusten Motorsport would call me a sweat. And we can't have that, so starting from the back, and here we go, lights out. Extremely important to not get too much wheel spin because it will really bog you down. As you can see, the Honda is going extremely slowly from the line. And here I was very happy that I could find the space to go down the inside here, because the last thing I want to have happen to me is to get pushed off into the gravel here on turn 1. But luckily we make it through nicely. And here I thought this guy with the TNT livery left the gap open, but yeah, once we entered the corner or the braking zone, he just closed the door again. Luckily we have no damage and it was just a bit of rubbing. Rubbing is racing, as they say. And here we have a bit of a weird netcode moment, as you can see on the radar, because it almost looked like I was driving into the Volvo behind me, but yeah, we were all clear and there was no real contact. 2 cars spinning out in front of us, and just like that, in like 3 or 4 corners we are up in P7. And I want to give you the chance to enjoy the sights and sounds, so I'll shut up for a second. Hell yeah, brother. And while I haven't really tried any of the other Super Touring cars in this pack, the Volvo, which I'm driving now, sounds so good on the onboard. Like, you can hear the transmission stuff, you can hear the engine roaring, you can hear some of the pops and bangs from the upshifts and downshifts. It's just awesome. And here ahead of us we have this Aussie guy, who I thought in this scenario was pretty clean, or at least didn't try to do anything stupid to me. But in other scenarios, in a later race, he just punted me off like twice, and then he tried to intentional wreck me, but in the process he wrecked himself. So yeah, if you see his name, be careful of this guy. But luckily I managed to get past him cleanly, up in P7 now. And as you can see in the mirrors, there he just drops it, because he is in the BMW. He actually has to be a little bit careful on traction. While the rest of the cars, I think, in this field are front-wheel drive, and that means we have to watch out for torque steer. Luckily, here up the hill we keep it within the lines, and we have a nice run here coming up on the Alpha. Let's see if he will go defensive or not. And he won't, he will just keep it in the middle of the road as he should. There's no way for me to get past here. I'm just trying to see if there's a gap on the inside here, on the outside maybe, but there's no real gap here, so I just have to be patient for a little bit. Because this is truly one of those classic British English tracks that, you know, it's just notoriously hard to pass on. Everything is just so tight and twisty. There's no real very extremely hard braking zones, because even the hairpin is like a late apex trail braking corner. So yeah, there's just no real opportunities to get past easily. But here he goes wide and he leaves the door open for me. Obviously I go for it. Almost run into each other, but luckily there's just enough space and we are now up into P5. And as you can see, P4, 3 and 2 are still within reach, so yeah, if we just keep on pushing we can still very much catch them and get a very nice podium here. And just seeing these touring cars, especially driving in these TV shots, it doesn't just put a smile on my face, it legit just makes me happy. But ahead here, there's contact, and the car spins out, and does he hold his brake? Of course he doesn't, and he rolls back on the track. I make big contact into the grass. We have a little bit of suspension damage, but the car's still fine. Luckily I'm back on the track quite quickly. We only lost about 3 seconds there, so it should be okay. But that also means we have to get past Iceman again. Let's just see how quickly we can catch back up with him in clean air. And to say I'm not really a natural with front wheel drive cars, it would be an understatement, to be honest, because they feel so unnatural to me. I really have to watch out for the torque steer here all the time. There you can see I had to do a lift, and then yeah, I'm just not sure of the feeling in the steering again. You also have to keep in mind these cars are actually based on production cars, so the chassis around it is still a production car, so they are not stiff at all. They roll a lot in the corners. And to go quick with these things, they have to set them up in a way that the rear tires are lifting on cornering, which essentially means that the rear tires will have a little bit less grip, and as a result they will be more willing to actually rotate throughout the corner. And as a result, these cars have an extremely unique driving style where you have to be both smooth, but also you have to absolutely rocket it into the corners. And since you have no ABS, it is quite often actually quite hard to judge the entry speed into the corner. And especially on trail braking corners, it is very easy to lock up the front wheels because that's where all of the load on the car is. And there in the B-roll you could see it. Once I'm steering extremely hard, the rear tires just start to lift. This is for extra rotation in the car. And another fun fact about these cars is that the suspension is extremely stiff. Because there is so much body roll in the car, they were trying to minimize this by making the suspension just extremely stiff, filling around with the bump stops and with the packers. But that does make these cars feel way more racy than you might first expect. As this time the Iceman goes defensive on the inside, but I don't care, I just rocket it round the outside. Brave on the throttle, still side by side here. But the next corner is again a right-hander, so he will have the inside. I have to be brave again. I am brave. We are still side by side here. Amazing racing, giving each other space and plenty of respect. And here finally in the tight right-hander kink, he finally closes the door again and is ahead of me. Very nice racing from him. Well done, Mr. Iceman. But here instantly he goes a little bit tight, the pressure was maybe a little bit too high. And now that I look back at the replay, it might seem that that wiggle was meant as a sign of disrespect. But the opposite is the case. I really wanted to let him know, like, nice battle, that was some awesome racing. And here we go back on board again. Mr. Tamayo 3.6 seconds ahead. But at this point, even while battling, I am putting in purple sector, so I know I have the pace. It's just about keeping it on the track, not getting into the gravel, and yeah, just driving it. And here we are in the famous hairpin. I'm still not entirely sure which line to take. I think I'm driving an okay line here. Here you want to line it up on the outside, brake into the corner, and then back on the throttle as early as possible. We get a nice run on the straight here, small straight. Then we trail brake round the outside, very late apex. Touch the inside and back on the throttle again. Use all of the revs of the engine, is extremely important. We don't have a turbo. And now we are coming up to the very high speed, high commitment section. Only right-handers here. Here we do the one downshift into fifth. We should go back on the throttle now, but yeah, I'm a little bit late, so I go back into fourth. Still okay, but you can carry a ton more speed there. Here cut as much of the curb as possible and run wide on exit. Then line it up on the left here for the right-hander again. Extremely tricky corner and very important to not put a wheel on the grass on entry because you will instantly just go off track. I was carrying a lot of speed here, so I wasn't expecting to be this high in the revs. Decent-ish left-hander there. And now already for the last corner of this track, hard braking, one downshift, chuck it into the corner, hook the apex and then back on throttle again. Then run wide a little bit and then we make the line tight again to minimize the distance traveled. And as you can see, there is still a bit of a gap, but I do think we are closing them down. And I cannot get enough of this livery. It's so beautiful with the... yeah, it's just amazing. And also the Hondas, yeah, bless them. And I think this is really where KW Studios, the makers of our Raceroom racing experience, have found their own niche. Because they have so much on offering that are like truly unique and niche tracks, unique combinations, weird classes, all kinds of cool stuff that other sims don't seem to have. And if they can build on their recent success with the graphical update, the ranked online multiplayer racing, establish themselves a little bit more as a viable option for online racing, I really think there is some very bright days ahead for Raceroom racing experience. And to finally see this game get some love and, you know, actually fulfill its potential, so late in its own life cycle is just awesome. Because they say, oh, iRacing is an old game, 2009. This game is not that much younger, only a few years difference. So yeah, to finally have this game be at a point where we can all just hop online and for a very reasonable one-time payment enjoy tons of cars, tons of unique tracks, drive them online against each other and just hop in, do some racing is just awesome, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for Raceroom. And so let's just hop back on board again, still putting in some decent pace here. I know the touring car experts are doing 130s around here, so about 2 seconds a lap faster, but yeah, I am not a touring car expert, so you will have to bear with me. But the gap to the cars ahead is now down to 1.9 seconds, 2 seconds. And we still have around 5 minutes left on the clock, so it is only a matter of time before we catch them. Especially if they start fighting a little bit, this will make it extremely easy for us. And this is such a cool corner. I even remember watching it as a kid when watching the BTCC back in the day. And the BTCC is really where my love of motorsport, as you know, watching it as a form of entertainment really started. Because as a kid I always used to watch Formula 1 and stuff, and that was also always fun, but also a lot of the time quite boring. But we also, and I don't know why, we had these BTCC broadcasts here, and it wasn't a full race, it was always just a race review package. But it was always just so extremely exciting, with all of the graphics and the cool stuff with pre-race, where they did the animation showing the entire grid and the lineup. Then all of the music and stuff they did, the fast-paced editing, showing the onboard footage. It was just extremely exciting, and to think that like 25 years later we get to drive these cars in Raceroom and drive them against each other online in some lobbies, it's just amazing. And yeah, even talking about it now just puts a big ass smile on my face. But before I ramble into eternity, as you can see, the gap is coming down rapidly. The gap is now only 0.9 of a second. Mr. Tamayo is driving the Honda Accord, and I think that car just looks so awesome. This is one of the older versions, I think. Later it looked a bit cooler, but yeah, even this car is awesome. And I cannot wait for the day at the Peugeot 406. And of course the famous Pro Drive Mondeo. Then this would be a truly complete lineup. But there's even more they can do, because they could also add some of the JTCC cars, which is the Japanese Touring Car Championship, where we could get the Toyota Corona and the Toyota Chaser, for example. But honestly, this class already feels very complete, and so it would just be a nice bonus and something to spend my money on, I guess. Because this is truly one of those classes where I want to try all of the cars, I will buy them all eventually, I will try them all eventually. And especially with how well the cars are made, modeled, how well all of the sounds are recorded and implemented, I think it is more than well worth the asking price of like $6. And that is for a single car without any discounts and stuff. Generally you can find some nice discounts, but if you just buy some single cars, you can have all of the cars in this class for around 36 euros, which in my opinion is an extremely good deal. Especially considering that you own it forever and you can access it at any time without worrying about any subscriptions. And now finally we are on the tail of this Honda Accord ahead. Let's focus on the racing a little bit. We have about 2 minutes left on the clock, so more than enough time to actually race with this guy. The BMW ahead is a back marker. He's just staying on his line, and as long as he doesn't do any silly stuff, we can just dive him here. Yeah, we can do it. And if we get a nice run here, we should be able to pass the Honda. I really wanted to have a nice battle with this guy. As you can see, I'm in his slipstream. I'm closing the gap quite quickly, but as you can see, he just moves over and lifts a little bit. I think he's like, okay, you just go chase down this Eberhard guy. I cannot keep up with him, so yeah, I'll give you a chance. Very nice gentleman behavior. Let's go chase down Mr. Eberhard ahead. And with 1.5 laps remaining, I don't think there will be time to catch Mr. Mustang. Sadly, if I didn't have the contact early in the race, which put me in the grass, there might have been a chance. But for now, I will be very happy with a P2 result. And already we are on the tail of Mr. Eberhard in the BMW. Let's see if we can coax him into a mistake. And it seems like he's struggling a little bit on tires, which is weird because this race is not all that long, and even on softs you still end up with like 70% tire wear. But yeah, it seems like he's sliding around quite a bit. Might have something to do with the car he's driving. But here in this part he does very well and he gets nice rotation from the car very early back on throttle. That means we won't have a chance to dive him here in the hairpin. He does go extremely wide here. He does keep it on the track, but then he is a massive wiggle. I'm just placing my car on the outside here, see if I can get a nice run on him. Side by side. And we give each other plenty of space, very respectful driving, and I am passed. Because I had more speed coming out of the corner than him, so yeah, even before this corner I would be ahead. So we managed to get second place, and this is the last lap. We have about half a lap remaining, so let's just enjoy the sights and sounds for a bit. And as we are coming towards the line, we will be able to secure the second position. Very nice result. As you can see, I'm very happy with it, doing the happiness wiggle. And with that, we have another Raceroom race in the books. And don't worry guys, I will keep playing in Le Mans Ultimate. But it's so awesome to finally have a bit of variety and not only drive GT3 cars all of the time. And so please, don't forget, please let me know in the comments which car you would like to see next. I will be sure to buy it and I will give it a shot. If I have a nice result with it, or at least a nice race, it doesn't matter the result, I will post it here and I will see you in the next one. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Ciao.